Hey guys, welcome to Living It Up Raw. And after almost a year and a half of pestering and pondering, we have finally gotten our hands on the Bajaj N250. Those of you who have already seen my N160 review will find this very familiar, because the N160 is actually based on this, the N250, which Bajaj launched earlier. And they share the same components, the same 14-litre tank, the same wheels, the same forks, the same wide section tires. You have the same 300mm disc at the front, the same Grimeca calipers, which impressed us quite a bit on the N160. But of course, the main difference lies at the heart of the matter, which is the engine. This is the most powerful Pulsar yet in terms of cubic capacity, 249cc, oil-cooled, fuel-injected, 2 valves. So this one makes similar power, 24.5 PS, but makes a little more torque, 21.5 Newton meters of torque compared to the NS200. The NS200 now errs more on the sportier side of things, while this is supposed to be a proper naked, a proper street fighter with all that mid-range to really flourish in the urban environment. So how does this engine work with this setup? Let's go and find out. Okay, this is really interesting because we just rode the NS200 and that engine still took us straight back to the Pulsars that we were used to. But this is distinctly different. This is a lot more understated. This is not as revvy, but it doesn't matter because you have so much more torque lower down. I mean, I cannot believe I'm riding this in the 4th gear. And that gives you a peek into how this engine has been tuned. You have a healthy dose of torque. You have a really good, strong mid-range. And yeah, it still goes at the top as well. Yeah, I think personally I definitely prefer this setup because it's so much more refined, so much smoother. Yeah, you can feel some vibes kick in at this point of time, around 6,000 RPM. But as I shift up the gears, they settle down a bit, and even on the highway in the 5th gear after 8,000 RPM, I felt that they settle down a little bit more, which allowed you to cruise comfortably at 120 kilometers an hour, which is not bad. But yeah, if you compare this to the N160, this is definitely a little bit vibier. And that's obviously down to the size of the engine. The N160 doesn't really make that kind of power. So you can understand why the vibes feel a little more prominent on this. But yeah, compared to again the NS200, this is so much more refined. Which brings us to this part, my favorite part, the corners. And straight away you can feel that this has been set up differently. This is not, you're not sitting as much on the nose, you're sat lower down in the saddle. And the suspension too, like this is soaking up all of these undulations beautifully. So it's a much softer setup. So if you're a cornering junkie, yeah, it definitely makes more sense for you to go with the NS200 with the upside down forks, which gives you much better front end feel, gives you a lot more confidence going fast into corners. This one is definitely set up for roads like this, a much more pliant and good ride quality than outright corner carving. Having said that, the wheelbase on this is a lot shorter compared to the NS200, so it's still quite quick on its feet. It's very progressive the way, see now the way it leans into corners. So for a new rider, this will inspire a lot of confidence. And also when you're riding in the city, this will easily slice through traffic. Let's look at the braking. Accelerating as fast as possible, and as we approach the corner,
Boom. Nice. I like how sharp the brakes are as soon as you get on the lever. But I feel, let's try again. Yeah, I feel it can do with a little more overall stopping power, which is surprising considering I was really impressed with how the brakes felt on the N160 with the same Grimeca caliper and the 300mm disc. But then again, yeah, that bike is a solid 8 kgs lighter than this. The braking, don't get me wrong, is pretty good. But yeah, I think with a little more stopping power, it can be even better. And also in terms of ergonomics, you're sat in a nice upright position. There's a decent amount of space for you in the saddle to move around, even for a guy like me who's 5'11". Your decent amount of ground clearance, so tackling our bad roads will also not be an issue.
Where can it improve? I feel the 5-speed transmission can be a little more precise. It's quite smooth. It's just that on a few occasions I felt the gears were not slotting in as well as we expect the gearbox on the Pulsars to perform. Even though I like and appreciate the new infinity display, the instrument cluster, because this has a gear indicator, distance to empty, and also I'm still a big fan of the backlit switches. This one still misses out on Bluetooth connectivity, which has kind of become the norm for all motorcycles in this segment. And more importantly, this is brand Pulsar, a brand which has always been associated to be a pioneer in introducing new things in the segment, which have come to become the standard. For example, the older generation Pulsars were the first ones to introduce alloy wheels and digital instrument clusters as standard. But now this has been in the works for a long time, and now that this has been introduced, in this day and age it doesn't really get any of these significant features which we have always associated with the brand. But having said that, as a motorcycle now, it's a much better product, not only to come out of the Bajaj stable, but also a motorcycle in terms of riding dynamics, in terms of the braking, in terms of the torque figures, and more importantly refinement, which can take the fight to its competition, including its Japanese counterparts. And this while still keeping intact its value for money proposition, because this variant right here is the dual channel ABS variant, which will put you back by 1.5 lakhs, which I think is a very competitive price tag for a motorcycle which is a real good all-rounder and something which will really shine through, especially in the urban environment.